Hey all, so back with another war video here, and this one's a tough one. I was out of town this last week, for those of you who don't know. I was at a conference, did all these fights in my hotel room, and of course that's when we match up against 4 Loki, which is always one of the most intense wars of our season because we have so many mutual friends there, right? Like, Na here used to be in my battle group for a very long time. The next defender is placed by Clown, who literally helped me plan this war on our side. Uh, yeah, this stuff is tough, you know? But whatever, you gotta do what you gotta do. I tend to perform a little bit worse when I'm out of town. That's just something I've noticed about myself. Hotel rooms don't really work for me, but trying to get through this as cleanly as I can. Starting off this Black Panther fight, we expect to take some extra block damage because of the block pen on his new kit. That's fine. The slow means that we could heavy to remove the protection here if we wanted to. I don't think it's super important to, because again, I could parry as long as he didn't have his reflective armor up, and then the slow would allow me to heavy after the parry, but just not tracking the uptime on that at all and just blocking and using a potion later, for me is worth it, because that means that I don't have to worry about just potentially getting it wrong and being one shot. Would much rather use one small potion later than die and revive and redo the whole thing. So, that one's down. We have the skill soul. That'll come in handy later. We move on to this rank 4 Enchantress here. Enchantress is rough, right? She's always rough, even when you are fully in your bag and locked in, and I was not. We're gonna start out right away with me forgetting what the haste spell does, and you know what, I don't want to get copyright struck, but let's just imagine the Benny Hill theme here. Anyway, this is terrible because I also had a bit of a lag spike right there as I was blocking that special, and so I got all 3 of those passive dots. Now I just can't, yeah. God, I don't know what I was thinking. Like, I will blame the dots on inputs, but that only accounted for what? 25-30% of my health loss there? That was 100% my fault. Now, in my defense right here, because I do it again, and I do get hit, and I burn my entire indestructible. That was on purpose, because doubling the momentum that I gain is what's allowing me to have the slow up here and actually hit into her and remove the stuff. I'm backing up, I'm going for the intercept. Now we are just down to the 1. I bait out the heavy again. I knock her down to remove the spell. So, was worth it there. I was just a lot more intelligent after that first heavy than I was in the first fight, right? Now, this right here, I shouldn't have done this because obviously there wasn't enough time left in the Fury, and she purified all of the stuff. And so that special 2 was almost entirely wasted. We got a little bit of damage at the beginning, but that's fine. Now, one thing to note here, because you're going to see it happening quite a bit, I'm losing the slow with the Purify, right? But then, right here, I dash back and it comes back. That's because the slow does reapply when you gain momentum, which is very, very important. It's also worth noting the anti-miss ability that Quicksilver has does not require any debuff. It does not require the slow to be there. That is purely a function of having enough momentum. You have to have 300 or more. But the slow, you do have to gain momentum, which you can do by hitting, right? So it does mean that Quicksilver can pretty much just punish her heavy, but you have to be just a little bit careful with it, right? So now we're trying to ramp back up to the slow. We had all of the spells off, so it was fine to just parry heavy there. I go ahead and I throw this, even though I don't have much whiplash. That's fine. Just having the Fury up and doing the trauma does a lot. That is what we were going for. This is just a tough fight. Quicksilver is good for this. I can't remember if I even get this intercept correctly or if I get hit. But yeah, Quicksilver is good for this. You just have to play a lot more intelligently than I did the first time. Sorry, I think I misspoke earlier because clearly the slow isn't coming back here. I believe the slow only comes back when you're in terminal velocity. I'm gonna have to check on the code for that later because that's a weird one. I can't explain that. Anyway, we hit her here. We get the intercept. I need a heavy here. I don't have room to do a heavy and then a special 2. And so I just am stupid and throw a special 2 into the air. And I guess now I have room in my power bar to throw this heavy. Whatever. And see, there I get the heavy back because I'm crossing 600, right? I'm pretty sure that's what happened there, is I crossed a threshold and things reapplied. And so it must just be that when you're at terminal velocity, it's constantly reading the threshold because you're above 900. That has to be what's happening in the code. But definitely a little bit weird the way that that works out. And I admit I didn't understand this nuance when I was taking the fight, because if I had, I would have done things differently. You can tell I'm not fully taking it into account, but we finally close things off here. So, like, that fight is more doable, or is doable in a better way than I just did it. It is definitely soloable. But I certainly learned things from it, and hopefully you learned things from watching it back with me. Hope that helps you in the future. Moving right along, I'm going to heal up, take this Destroyer here. Quicksilver's pretty darn good for Destroyer, not quite as good as Luke, but he does have that nice miss counter, and so that is going to come in handy. We'll go for the intercept if we can, but, you know, we're probably going to evade and then get hit when we go for it, because as a reminder, Destroyer is fully immune to slow. We're not going to be able to rely on that. So the main thing I'm trying to do here is just ramp and get my miss counter up. See, there's the falter. That's fine. We're just going to keep ramping. Now, I probably should have started this fight with a parry heavy, because then we already would have our miss counter and I wouldn't be at the wall. So do that if you take this. But thankfully, I do know how to avoid Destroyers heavy at the wall, because that's going to matter. I may just play this fight without taking down protection at all. I've done that before, but I honestly can't remember. So watch with me. And there I just mess up, right? I was clearly late on the decks. It's gonna happen some percentage of the time. Thankfully, inequity meant that I lost, what, like a third of my health instead of half, so we're still doing okay. I'm about to lose a bunch of whiplash, and that is super unfortunate. I was clearly going for an intercept there because I was trying to disarm him. But, you know, what I should have done is just mediumed to refresh my whiplash, because it would have done significantly more damage even through the protection when I had 2 traumas up as opposed to just 1. So, bit of a misplay there. I do not have many withers, so this is a bit spooky. But thankfully we stopped him from going red, and we're able to hit back in. And yeah, I don't think I ever take protection down. I probably just should have fully accepted that instead of trying to go for a couple intercepts in a row, and then I would have had more whiplashes, and I would have finished this a bit faster. Not necessarily with more health, because I already messed up the special 2 decks once, but yeah, it would have been a little bit faster. That would have been nice. Yeah, I think I go for it here. I can't remember if this kills. It does. So even through protection, that many whiplash and a double trauma finishes things off. Not the world's fastest Quicksilver fight by any means, but also not bad at all for a dangerous defender that we never dropped a 50% protection on. Moving on to this Sentinel. I'm sure you've seen this in other war vids, including maybe mine. I can't remember if I've taken Sentinel yet this season. But the way I'm doing this one, the way a lot of people are doing Sentinel, whenever you can't bring somebody who can actually handle his ability power gain, is by pushing to the special 3 as soon as I can, right? Because I have an invuln here, and of course he backs off and throws the special 2 and makes this take longer. Jerk. But anyway, I have an invuln here, and so I can tank that special 3, but I want him to burn it. and reset to 100% as quickly as possible, right? So that when we get to the end of the fight and I've actually chewed through his health bar, I don't have to worry about them, rocketing back up to 100% and then I have to chew through it again. Because when they throw it right here, I've only taken off 8%, right? And having to redo 8% is trivial. Having to redo 100 or 90% is very, very bad. So at this point, I am going to start going for intercepts because that would be nice. I'm going to bait this out. And I am just going to spam special 2s. Because even though Sentinel does reduce burst damage thanks to the analysis charges, they also have a lot of extra armor from the analysis charges, and so that special 2 is going to do plenty of damage. Serpent's also quite good at getting intercepts once you're used to that big old hammer, and so that's going to help us here too. But the other thing that pushing to 3 bars of power right away means is that you kind of have to, or you kind of stop having to worry about baiting. Because it doesn't matter if Sentinel gets to 3 bars of power. No special 3, just special 2s. And so then the only challenge with baiting becomes getting them back under a bar so that I can safely intercept so that I can do this again. And that's only a 2-minute fight against Sentinel, who is one of the best stall defenders right now. We were aided by the Fury, but Serpent also has a lot of extra attack on his own, so not as much as most people would be aided by the Fury. That's a good fight. This is not a good fight. We had a hood in the field, and if I had been more on top of things, I would have and should have pivoted this to them. But I don't know, if I was playing a hero or something, I wasn't fully paying attention while I was away, and I wasn't really doing a lot of the planning. And so I just don't do great here. Oh, I did have an indestructible. I forgot that I wasted it there. So it was nice turning off his unblockable. I don't think it was worth it. Because turning off his unblockable and then immediately getting hit, burning my indestructible, means that now it's not safe to push him to his special 3. And I think I would rather have had, the full field Coldsnap as I was slowly turning off his new buffs with Neutralize and nullifying the old ones, and not taken half of my health here from this special 3. I think that would have been much better, because this Coldsnap hurts. But if I had more health here, then when I go into this special 2, I would have been in better shape. And then maybe I would have still had enough charges left to not die to that special 2, and it was just barely unblockable. I think if I had not tried to punish that special there, I could have pulled that off. And again, the correct way to take this fight was to have the rank 3 hood we already had in the field take it instead of me. I should not have been doing this. But that doesn't mean that it was an unwinnable fight, and I do like to talk about possible paths to victory, because sometimes you just end up in a bad place, and you should be looking for ways to solo those fights. So that's what I did there. Funnily enough, that punish of the special one worked out much, much better for me. So clearly that's what I was hoping for, but I guess I was a little bit too late last time, and then I am able to close it out here. So yeah. Unfortunate death, definitely a planning death, and I'm not putting that on the other planners. When I say that, I mean it was a problem with the plan I should have called out. I did not. Cost us a death, very unfortunate. But we move on to the next one, which is this Deathless Thanos right here. If we had the Hood synergy on our team, then I could take this with Purgatory, because she has energy resistance, and she would have bleed immunity, but she doesn't, and so I'm doing this with Serpent, who is only immune to Coldsnap, but can handle bleed okay. Now, the one thing I wasn't really sure of here was whether Bryn was running deep wounds or not, because if your opponent is running deep wounds, then you as Serpent should not hit into bleed. And you should never hit into block. That was just a hilariously dumb move by me, the creator of both of these champions. Sometimes I'm stupid. Anyway, but what I was saying about the bleed was, because Serpent reduces bleed duration by 90%. If your opponent isn't running deep wounds, you can safely hit into bleed. If they are running deep wounds, because that's a flat additional duration, that takes effect after the 90% reduction, and so those bleeds can do quite a bit of damage. And so you're going to see me start hitting into the bleed just a little bit to see if it works. Also note there's Conflictor on this node, which is why I'm not parrying. And yeah, I don't think they were running any points of deep wounds, so I could have been a little bit more aggressive. But at the same time, it's kind of to my advantage to just not be more aggressive. Yeah, see how short those bleeds are? Because you have to wait out Thanos' counterpunch charges anyway to avoid him going unstoppable. And so just hitting into Coldsnap and waiting for my special 2s is kind of the way to play this regardless, and so I don't really have any regrets. I have a little bit of regret there because I spam dashed back at the beginning and so it took some corrosion damage, but then I played more intelligently from there. I also want to shout out, I'm using the special 2 here mostly because of the lower hit count. Thanos does have a little bit extra armor, if I remember correctly. I think I tuned that higher than normal for him. No, you know what? I probably didn't because he has so much health. We usually only do one or the other. But yeah, I'm not doing a whole lot of armor damage in particular against him. The main point here is just that the special 2 does a lot of damage in a few hits, as opposed to the special 1, which does a lot of damage but with a lot of hits, and it would be very difficult for us to play around the Unstoppable doing that. So yeah, this is going fine. I'm taking more damage than I should because I was dumb. But that's fine. We're clearly winning this race, and I've got potions. And I'm going to need it because I just ate a special. Whatever. He's down. We're good to go. I play so poorly in hotels. I don't know what to tell y'all. I hope you're enjoying this. These are cool fights. I'm just not on my A game. Oh, I remember this fight. Speaking of not on my A game. Anyway. This is Shocker. We don't have to worry about the falter on this node because Serpent has very good anti-miss. We do have to worry about the Unstoppable on this node, which is why I didn't throw the special 1 there. Because, yeah, I probably knock him back enough that the Unstoppable doesn't trigger in the middle of my special and get me hit. But, why test it? And here we have Shocker's amazing block damage. He's so much fun, so interactive. Anyway, we hit in here. This is going fine. I do throw the special 1 here because I know we have enough time. I'm making sure to play Serpent properly. I love getting caught on a dash back by his stupid gauntlets. But yeah, we're making sure to play Serpent with the little delay and then throwing the specials into block so they stay unblockable. We're doing that to make sure we don't have to deal with Shocker's auto block. Now, here's a fun little... I forgot about that random heavy. Then I was slow on the punish. I hate Shocker so much. We haven't even gotten to the fun part here yet, I don't think. At least we got the Unstoppable. Okay, note how he has more than 50 charges here. No, it's not just yet. I hate fighting Shocker so much. Here it is. I go Unstoppable. I try and use it to counterpunch, and he goes unblockable and stuns me with the medium. It's nice to have death immunity to fall back on because, jeez, I'm making an absolute mess of this. We're okay, though. There's not a lot of Shocker left. Wait for the Unstoppable to trigger. Wait for him. Yeah, there we go. That was so ugly. I'm so embarrassed that that is the note we're ending this video on. But like I said, I just know that about myself. I don't play very well in hotel rooms. let's focus on the fact that there were some interesting lessons to learn in this video. I do think there's quite a bit to talk about in the Quicksilver fight, and in the Sentinel, or the Quicksilver versus Enchantress fight, and in the Serpent versus Thanos fights. And hopefully you got some entertainment out of the others. But thank you all for watching. This was a long one. And until next time, thank you so much, and take care.